Hi friends, welcome back to my channel, Sarah Lilly Makes. My name is Sarah and this is where I like to document and share all the things that I have been making. It's been a bit overdue because I am overdue in sharing a project update, and I apologize about that. I'm here to talk about the things that I have been working on for the months of June, July, and the second half of May. So the second half of May, June, and July, 2.5 months of knitting. Some housekeeping before I get into it, because I just want to get started, because it'll be a long one. I hope that's okay. If you haven't already, please consider liking and subscribing. It would really help my channel grow and mean so much to me. And I will also include in the description below everything that I talk about, and I will include links if necessary. And also I will have chapters, so you feel free to skip around if you need to. The reason I am not wearing a knit is because I want to just throw on the pieces that I'm going to talk about today. So let's get started. I have 7 finished objects to talk about today, and I think I have 4 whips. Although one of those whips is a previously finished object that I have been working on fixing something. But I think I shared it in a previous episode. So, all right, let's get started. And I will actually be using my Ravelry because it's been a while since some of these have been finished. And I don't remember the details on a lot of it because I'm getting old and my brain is also getting old. So the first thing is the Mina Sweater, which is a pattern from Sandnes Garn. I was actually wearing this in my last episode, which was a project vlog for one of my finished objects today. The Mina Sweater is a pattern from Sandnes Garn. I knitted this with one of the recommended yarns, which is double Sunday and alpaca fil held together, and I used one of the sample yarns that they had used in this, the sample photography. So I was wearing this in my last episode, and I mentioned not being completely happy with it. I'll go into my feelings at the end, but I'll just briefly go over the construction of it again. Let me throw it on, and then I'll talk about the construction. I will stand and go back a bit so you can see a bit more of it as well. Okay, so overall, I really like this design. I love the pattern. I have made a version of this sweater before in minus the neckband, and I believe that one is called the Minimi sweater, which I knitted last fall in Cardigan and alpaca fil. This is a top-down European shoulder construction. You start at the back, you knit the back panel down, then you pick up this left shoulder and you work the neck shaping down. Then you start to cast on just stitches on a separate needle. This isn't joined yet. And you work the neck shaping, and then you join here, and then you work the front down, you work the body down, then you pick up, not the sleeves yet, then you pick up for the neck. You pick up the 2x2 rib for the neck, you work the neck ribbing up. I didn't knit this to the full length given in the pattern. I think I knitted it maybe like an inch shorter, which kind of seems weird because that would be like that much, but that's fine. So once you finish, you bind off. For the ribbing, I did where you rearrange the stitches, and then you did the Italian bind off. Then you pick up on the hanging side here. You pick up for a double knit button band. And then you do this one. It's buttoned, so I don't want to undo the buttons. And I also have a button on the inside there, kind of holding it down. So then you do the inside button placket, button band. And then once you finish off that, then you pick up the sleeve. So I'm kind of gonna start talking about why I don't completely love this. The reason I don't really love this is because I find that because of how heavy this is, and I don't even think the buttons is adding to the bulk really, or that heaviness is that this just pulls and it sags a little bit too much on my right shoulder. And you can actually see it here where I have to constantly readjust to make it like where it's not uneven on my neck, if you can see what I'm saying. It just like, it keeps pulling down. If my hands were at my sides, this side will be just down a lot more than the other side. And like, it just naturally falls like that because I believe this is really heavy, because of how heavy the double knit button band is. I'm not the biggest fan of that. And honestly, that's my only gripe with it, because everything else I really love about this pattern. I love the color, I love the yarn, I love the design. The selling point on this knit for me was this like placket, this button band, these gorgeous fake buttons. And I just happened to find something very similar to the sample. And I'm going to keep wearing it. I have no intention of frogging this. I really do love this yarn color. This is like one of my favorite colors. And I don't have very many things in this color family in my closet. So I have no intention of frogging this. I really do like it. I think I just have to get over this, the fact that this is going to keep sagging and pulling, I suppose. So that's my only main unhappy negative thing that I have to say about this. So, but overall, I really do think it's a really clean, I really like how clean the pickup is on both sides, on the inside and the outside of the placket. I really like it. Like, it's a gorgeous detail. I just find that it's a little bulky and heavy. Another thing that I did, so when I finish this, then you pick up the sleeves. And to pick up the sleeves, you have to sandwich these two layers together. So it's 4 layers of knit here to pick it up. And I felt like my pickup wasn't sturdy enough. It wasn't, and I tried picking up as tightly as I could to sandwich those layers together to keep it connected and tight. But even after picking it up, I felt, and I finished up this, I knitted the sleeve down, I just felt like it was not sturdy enough. I can't think of another word to use, but I just felt like it wasn't, I felt like it could easily detach, even though it's like, you know, because it's a strand of yarn really holding 4 layers together, I felt like it could easily detach. So what I ended up doing was putting the whole thing on, turning it inside out, and then keeping it sandwiched together and sewing it down on my sewing machine. And I felt a lot more confident in the seam there. And you could actually kind of see it because I feel like the sewing kind of pulled this a little bit apart. Pulled like the stitches a little bit apart, but I'm actually okay with that as long as it's sturdy there and it holds. Yeah, I mean, the little bulk there at the seam also kind of is throwing me a bit, but I'm not focusing on that too much, so that's okay. And then once you finish off the sleeves, you're done. The sleeves were kind of the last bit to finish, and yeah, it was a fun knit. I did end up messing up. So I had finished off one sleeve, and then I picked up the second sleeve, and I was about to start the ribbing. And then I compared the, I like to compare, obviously, to make sure that they're the same length. I did the same exact amount of decreases. I did the same pick up everything, except my left sleeve was much shorter, considerably, and I had not noticed this while I was knitting it. So I am at the end of the sleeve. I just need to pick up the cuff. I just need to do the ribbing. And I'm like, why is this so much shorter? It turns out I had used a needle size a whole millimeter smaller. So I had some frustrations with this project, as you can tell. And so I ripped it out, put it down for a day or so, and then I picked it back up, and then I finished it off. And I was like, okay, this is done. And then I washed and I blocked it before I added the buttons because they're kind of very textured, very like there's like sharp. One of these, this one I think it is, fell off the inside, but my daughter found it and she's like, that's mine. I'm like, okay, that's fine. So then I washed and blocked it, and then I added the buttons, and that was the end of this project. So, all right, so that's the end of my Mina sweater. The color that I used, I said, was mint green, the new mint green that they had, and the color number is 7911. Okay, the next thing that I cast on was something to take my mind off of my, you know, personal failings of this project. And so I cast on a Hedgehog Fibers pattern, which is a free pattern from on their website. And I cast on the All My Stitches scarf. So I'm going to actually take this off so I can put this on. Okay, I'm going to go back a bit so you can see this. This is a triangular scarf. It's called triangular scarf, but it's like one end is a lot. It's an uneven and triangle scarf, I suppose. So this is where you cast on. You cast on this end, and you immediately start increasing rapidly. I can't remember the exact directions, but I believe you're increasing on both sides, on both ends rather, every right side row. And then you reach the amount of stitches you're supposed to reach. And then you're also simultaneously changing yarn colors to create a fade. And then once you get to the amount of stitches, then you start slowly decreasing, and it creates this really long end. So I used 4 potluck colorways. They're unnamed. They're just 4 random potluck colorways that I had received from Hedgehog Fibers previously, and I just love these colors together. They weren't even part of a set, I don't think. I think I just just found 4 colors that I liked and kind of just made it work together. So this is the All My Stitches scarf, and this was a really great, really mindless, necessary project for me to work on, to kind of just get my brain off of the Mina sweater. And while I was knitting scarves, and I decided, well, I was knitting a scarf, I decided, well, I want to keep knitting scarves. So I think around that time, the Uma scarf from Petite Knit had just been released, and I said this is Hedgehog. So okay, before I talk about the other project. This is knitted with 2 strands of sock yarn held together. So to create the fade, you're knitting with 2 strands, and as you're getting to the end of one, at the end of one ball of the yarn, you start including a second strand from a second skein. And then you eventually work this first colorway completely finished, which is what I did. I used up all of the yarn that I had for 4 skeins of this yarn. And then you fade it in, and then you use the second skein only, using 2 strands from the inside and the outside, knitting all the way down. Then you start switching to the third color, which is like you can kind of see around this part here. And then you keep doing that. Then you start including the 4th color, which you can see right here. And then once that's done, then you finish off with the 4th ball of yarn. So I just really love these colors together. This is kind of like my favorite color family, like turquoise and teals and, you know, those minty greens. I really love, and I was just really, this just kind of just fulfilled a need in my like knitting. And I've been wanting to knit more accessories. That was one of my goals for 2026, was to knit an accessory a month. I am behind, but I'm hoping to catch up. So the next thing that led me to was the Uma scarf, which had just been released, I'm pretty sure, or maybe earlier on, but this is a pattern from Petite Knit, and I used another Hedgehog skein of yarn for this, another potluck colorway. So how this is constructed is you cast on 6 stitches with a 2-stitch center increase, and then you're increasing on the right side every right side row, going all the way up until you get to the end. I knitted this off gauge, and the only thing I really followed was the basic instructions for this of casting on and doing the increases. I knitted this with a 4mm needle instead of 3 or 3.5. I can't remember the actual needle size. And then I just kept knitting until I was really close to running out of yarn. And then I just did the bind off edge the way it was written in the pattern. So I really love this too. I have definite plans to make more of these. This is not me, but I can just try it on. It's a nice head scarf or a nice little neck scarf too. And I really, really like this pattern a lot. It's very simple, very mindless. Like I said, I needed the mindless knitting, and I am going to knit more of these. And the thing I'm going to do, I'm not going to follow this pattern. It's just a recipe. Honestly, you can just do whatever you want, knit with whatever yarn you want. And I plan on, instead of doing the bind off the way it's written in the pattern, I feel like I might like an I-cord edge bind off a little bit better. So that's the plan if I were to knit this again, which I probably will be very soon. And like I said, this was a Hedgehog Fiber skein of yarn, and I really love this. This is pink with a lot of gorgeous rainbow purple neon speckles, and it just really scratched that itch that I needed. The only thing is, obviously, is that once you start getting more increases on the needle, it's a lot of purling on the wrong side. But if you don't mind that, I highly recommend this pattern. It's a great pattern. Love it. We'll be making more. Okay, the next thing that I made was something I consider another failure or flop. So there's nothing wrong with this pattern, and I'm considering ripping out some of it to fix it, but I'll talk about that as I get to it. This was a spring plan, and this is the Audrey Jacket from Kokomo Knitwear. I failed on this so badly in that I just did not read the pattern clearly. I did not use the right yarn. I only used 1 strand of boucle DK. And you're supposed to use like a bulky weight yarn. So you're supposed to use the boucle and another somewhat bulky yarn. So my gauge is just off completely. And this does not even reach where I needed to reach, which is like here. So this is more of, instead of like a heavyweight fall jacket, this is more of like a light spring, light summer evening jacket. And I mean, for that purpose, it works. It's okay. Another thing that I did instead is I'm pretty sure I used the wrong needle too. Let me see. I'm pretty sure the pattern calls for 5mm needles, and I used 4.5mm needles. Yeah, I don't know what I was thinking. I'm actually really annoyed with myself about this project. Let's see. So I used the wrong size needle too I just couldn't read. I feel like 2026 is the year of mistakes for me, and kind of frustrated about that, and I'm learning to deal with it, I think. So I'm kind of struggling and I'm learning to deal with it, but yeah. So the other thing that I did differently was, instead of doing buttons, I did a zipper. And my zipper is also coming undone because why not, right? Why not? Why not just add fuel to the fire? Oops. Can't even put it on properly. So I actually sewed it down with my sewing machine, and it's coming undone right here, if you can see. And so I will go back in and reattach it, because I actually like this one. Like, it's sewn down the first knit column, and this one is as well, but I attached it too high up. This isn't shown very well. I attached it too high up to the on the band, so it kind of is a little higher than the other side. I'm letting it slide for now, but I do want to go back and fix this. So my thoughts, I have a lot of yarn left for this project. I bought 6 skeins of Explore Knits and Fibers Boucle DK for this. I'm pretty sure the yarn is Don't Lose Sight of Who You Are from their Wicked collection. And because I did not use what I was supposed to, I have 3 whole skeins left. So initially I wanted to go back in, frog the whole thing, fix it, redo on the correct gauge with the correct needle. I still really like the button band. But my zipper is too short, so it like leaves an inch gap there, which I'm okay with. But I considered redoing this, but I'm actually not sure about how I feel about frogging boucle yarn. I don't know that that's the best idea, because I don't know that that's the best idea because of how textured this yarn is, and I feel like frogging it is going to be a nightmare. The other option I have for this is to just undo the I-cord here and add length, because I have I have 3.5 balls left. I don't understand. I don't understand what I was thinking, how I misread this pattern so terribly that like it just did not work out how I really intended this to work out. I love the pattern. I actually do want to make this garment, this design, this pattern again for fall, and I have another EKF boucle yarn that I will be using, and I will be knitting it correctly this time, because I love the idea of this jacket. Like, I just went about it all wrong. Like, this isn't it. This isn't it. So this was an obvious fail for me, and again, just a lot of frustrations and a lot of negative feelings, I suppose, but that's okay. I think the next couple of projects that I have kind of made up for that. So this is to be put back on the fixing block to be fixed, and hopefully it turns out better. I mean, the idea of this is so cute. The idea of this is adorable. I love it, but I did not execute it very well. So, and all the finishings are with I-cord edges, which this will be easy. I am pretty sure this will be easy to just take out and then add length to the sleeve if that's the route I end up going, which I think it might be. That's the one I'm leaning towards the most. Audrey Jacket, Coco More Knitwear. This is a great pattern. I just did it very poorly. Skill issue, like my kids love to say. Okay, the next thing that I have is another Coco More pattern, and it's a test knit. This is the Clovelly Tee, and I will throw it on really quickly and talk about the pattern. Okay, I made my version a bit more cropped and a little bit more fitted, because I've kind of been feeling that vibe this summer, like a little bit more fitted and a little bit more like baby doll length. This comes up to my hips, right at my hips. And normally I don't like things just at my hips, but it works really well with like high-waisted skirts and jeans, etc. So it is a striped pattern of everyday wear. Depending on your yarn choice, it can be perfect for either cold or warm weather. The tee is worked from the top down. First, the back is worked back and forth with increases, and the shoulders are worked from stitches that are picked up and knitted along the slanted sides of the back. Stitches are then picked up and knitted along the sides of the shoulders, and the rest of the yoke is worked together on a circular needle. First, back and forth, and then in the round. Once the neck shaping is complete, the sleeve stitches are put on hold and the body is worked in the round. The sleeves are worked in the round. Both body and sleeves are finished with ribbing. Finally, a folded neck edge is worked from stitches picked up around the neck edge. I really love this pattern. It's a very, dare I say, basic pattern, but I love my yarn combination, love my yarn choices. I used Sandnes Garn Sunday Held Double in lemonade and lavender, I'm pretty sure. So I really love this color combination. I was just feeling a lot of spring vibes, summer vibes when I was knitting this, and it was such a pleasure to knit on. It just kept, I couldn't put it down. I just kept knitting on it because it was just very enjoyable, very meditative, and just a fun knit. I said basic, and it really is, but it's a really cute basic garment, and I'm really happy with the finished result. I enjoy test knitting this. I always enjoy test knitting for Kokomore knitwear, and this was no different. I don't have a lot else to say about this except my needle size for the ribbing. I went down to a 3 instead of a 3.5. It is knitted, the majority, the body is knitted on 4mm needles. So it's a great summer tee, and I really enjoy Sunday for summer garments as well. Okay, I'll move on to the next thing that I'm really excited about. I think it's probably one of my most favorite summer knits this year. Okay, let's put it on. All right, this is the Lyra Sweater, which is a pattern from Sandnes Garn, and I love this. This is definitely up there as one of my favorite summer knits of all time. So this pattern, like I said, which is from Sandnes Garn, was released this spring with their 2604 collection. Let me just really double check because I always get it wrong. Let's see. Yes, 2604 Summer Strict. I knitted this as the pattern recommended. I used the yarn as one of the samples, which is the mint green Lena. And I knitted this with the needle recommended, which is 3.5mm needles. I love a good summer tee on 3.5mm needles. And I've done quite a few over the years and a couple this year as well. Let's talk about the details. So you work the sweater in stockinette stitch from the neck down with increases for raglan. Start with turning rows to shape a deeper neckline at the same time, increasing for raglan on the back and front. Continue increasing for raglan on the sleeves, back and front until the end. Increase for raglan over sleeves only. Divide the stitches on the needle for the sleeves back and front. And work each part separately. Work the last section of sleeves with increases to create the elegant trumpet sleeve shape. Sweater has a snug fit with estimated movement allowances between 5 to 6 centimeters. So it is described as a fitted raglan sweater in Lena that can be knitted both top down and bottom up with shaped neckline and trumpet sleeves. This is my favorite this summer. This is quite possibly my favorite summer knit for this summer. I love it so much. It is fitted on me. The ease is probably what is the recommended ease in the pattern suggestions. And it's a good length for me. I did actually bind off too soon, and then I immediately undid the stitches. It's really hard to tell, or like you can't see it on the inside either. But I ended up just ripping out the bind off and adding like 2 more inches of length to this because I was like, it's going to be too short if it's at that length. So I ended up doing that for this, and I'm really happy that I did that because now I feel like it's a perfect fit. It's a perfect length for me, which is like I don't have to pull it. It's just naturally there. And I just really like it. I just really like this. I want to make this again. If not this summer, then next for sure. But they also have a ballerina chunky mohair edition that I also have the pattern for that I want to knit if I don't get around to knitting another Lena version just yet. So that is the Lyra sweater. I don't want to take it off. It's so comfy. It's so cozy. I love Lena. I love Lena for summer. I just love this. This is 10 out of 10 for me. No notes. Okay, the last thing that I have is actually what I shared in my previous video of mine, the Aria Sweater. I did a project vlog on this. This project actually took me 2 whole months to knit because I cast this on May and I finished it end of July, so just over 2 months. This was originally a spring plan. I wanted to knit the Aria Sweater, which is a pattern from Sandnes Garn that was released at the beginning of the year in the collection that the Mina Sweater also was released in. And the original pattern calls for 2 strands of lace weight yarn. I wanted to change it up and I wanted to knit a nautical stripe version with double Sunday in this color, which is whipped cream, and then a navy blue. I can't remember the color, but I have it somewhere. So that was the original plan for my spring knitting plans. I ended up changing when I saw this a garment that was very similar to this at the mall, and I said I wanted to make it. So I ended up using this pattern per suggestion from a lovely viewer to kind of recreate this for myself. This is an all-over eyelet lace t-shirt with a polo collar and 2x2 ribbing. I am not going to talk too much about it because I've shared full details in my last video. Please feel free to check it out if you're interested in the details of that. But I ended up modifying it quite a bit from the Aria, even though the Aria is kind of like the base for this. I used the counts, I used the needle size, I used the size that I normally would for myself, and I just created the lace work with yarn overs and slip-slip knits through the back loop, and then I made it a short sleeve t-shirt. And the original Aria pattern has a double knit collar and button band at the front. I ended up going with 2x2 rib, which is what my inspiration shirt had. I think the only thing really, I love this. First of all, let me just say that I love this so much. This is up there with my favorites along with the Lyra. The only thing I did is I didn't give the collar enough length. So it's going to be a little hard to see, but I think I want to add like maybe 1.5 to 2 inches more on the neckband. But that requires me to undo the Italian bind off and the rearranging stitches, which is fine, honestly. I feel like I could just insert my needle into the 2x2 rib and then just cut it off to save me some time. But that's a conversation for another day. Okay, that's all I have to say about this because I shared so many details about this in my last episode. So if you're interested in more details, please feel free to check it out. Like I said, I will go into whips now, and I have, I think, 4. One of them is was a finished object, and I brought it back because I was not completely happy with the button band. And this is the Mouline cardigan from Lay Knit. This is a gorgeous design. This was a really beautiful design. I shared in full detail as well about this, I think, in my last project update. I talked about ripping out the button band. I had cut it off because this is finger and weight yarn and serial pack of lace, and it was a nightmare to undo. I had started undoing it, and then I was like, I can't. It took me an hour to undo maybe an inch, and I was like, nope, I'm not. This is not going to happen. I'm just going to cut it off, and I ended up cutting it off. And then a few days ago, I picked it back up to do the button band because I have been missing wearing this. I wore it so much with it imperfect earlier, and I really loved wearing it, even though it was a bit off, the button band. So I mentioned previously, but I'll just repeat again. I picked this up, I picked up the stitch, I picked up the incorrect number of stitches for the button band because I had incorrectly, again, assumed, I am making all these mistakes this year. I had incorrectly assumed that it was knitted like a double knit button band. Well, it is knitted similarly to a double knit button band, but it is ribbed, not double knit. So with a double knit, you knit one, then you slip the purl, knit, slip, knit, slip. This is just ribbing all the way along the entire edge of this cardigan. And so as a result, you're not picking up twice the number of stitches as you would for a double knit button band. But I had picked up twice the number of stitches because I assumed it was double knit. Do you see the problem? I picked up too many stitches. So I realized that as I was working on it, like I was probably halfway up the middle, and I was like, oh no, this is going to be too many stitches. This is wavy. So I had started dropping stitches like every other stitch, but it was still too many stitches I picked up. I finished it that way, and I kept it for a few months, and I wore it just fine, but it kept bugging me. So I decided to just take it apart and fix it because I do love this. The yarn for this is Woolberry Fiber Co. Their cereal pack of lace, like I said, and their fingering weight sock yarn. I don't remember what it's called. Berry fingering or something. They're no longer in business, so it's kind of hard to... I don't remember the details, and I can't find it on... they don't have a website anymore. I don't think so. Let's see. Oh, no, they still have a website. Anyway. Yeah, I just couldn't remember all the details. I can't remember all the details on this. So anyway, the colorway is Paris, which I just love. It's pink with like gorgeous brown, dark brown, black speckles scattered throughout. And I picked it up, and I'm doing it correctly now. So like I said, I picked this up a few days ago. It's actually moving very quickly because it is just ribbed, not double knitting, and you're knitting half the amount of stitches. So it will really just take me like an evening to finish this. I just need to pick it up and finish it. I think I've gotten around one side and the back. So now it's just on pause here. And yeah, I love it though. I really want to finish this and have this back in my closet because this is a staple. This is a staple, and I love it. Okay, so that's my first whip, and then the second whip I have was a test knit for Minimi Knit Design, and this is the Rivoli top. It's not the color that you're seeing on screen. It is a bright poppy red, and it looks very faded and washed out because of my lighting, but that's okay. This, I finished where I was supposed to for the test knit period, which was just joining on the underarms, but honestly this needs to be done too because this is a fun design, except every row just takes a while. So this is a rick-rack crisscross ribbed design. It is really not that color. This is super washed out. Let me just adjust the lighting. This is a little closer to the color that it actually is. It's still a little washed out, but so this is a rick-rack crisscross, and it is so gorgeous. I love the texture of this rick-rack. You're alternating rounds where you're doing the rick-rack, knitting it from the second stitch in the front, and in the second round you're knitting the second stitch from the back. So It takes a minute for me to recall what round I am on, and sometimes I forget which one I'm on and I'm knitting the wrong stitch. So I'm knitting from the back instead of the front, or I'm knitting from the front instead of the back, and then I have to redo it. So it's kind of been taking a minute to get through this because I keep making mistakes like that, and there's no way to really tell unless I am deliberately and purposefully making notes on which round I'm on. And it just, I don't know, I find that a little bit too tiresome too. So I guess I'd just keep ripping back to undo the wrong stitch, but that's okay. I think I've come to the point where I can tell which direction now the crisscross is. I can tell, like, if it's leaning this way, then I know if it's leaning this way, the crisscross is leaning this way, then I know that it's the first row. So I've kind of come to memorize it that way. So I shouldn't be making as many mistakes as I was. But the test period is over for that. The pattern is now out. I highly recommend it. It's gorgeous. I have really enjoyed working on this. I am knitting it with Sister Ray Silk Merino and Alpaca Fogotrad from Sandnes Garn. And once I finish off this ball or get to the desired length, I feel like I want to knit maybe 6 more inches or until this runs out, whichever comes first. And that is my second whip. The third whip that I have is this summer plan. This is the Elva tee, which is another Sandnes Garn pattern. So again, I am not happy with how this color is turning out, but I can't really, it's fine. I'll just make the rest of the video darker. That's okay. So this is the Elva tee. I'm knitting this with Lena from Sandnes Garn in the colorway Lilac Pink or Pink Lilac, one of them. That's the same. It's the same thing. I have been working away on this for the past week or so. So this has been my primary focus because I really want to get this done. This is gorgeous and I love how airy it is. I love how the texture, I love the 4x2 rib. It's really fun. It's very mindless once I get into the flow of it. And yeah, it's a top-down ribbed t-shirt. I think I might have enough yarn to make it long sleeve, and I might go that route if I have enough yarn. Because the sleeve itself on the original pattern comes up to elbow. But I have really been loving my long sleeve Lena shirts a lot, and I really think I could use a long sleeve pink ribbed shirt in my closet. So that might happen. If I get bored, then I probably will just bind off. It depends. It depends on how I feel when I get there, you know? So nothing else too much to say about this. This is a fun pattern, and I probably want maybe 3 to 4 more inches left on the body. And you just bind off in pattern, which, you know, works for me. And yeah. I'm really enjoying this. This has been my primary focus, and I really want to get this done. So the next whip that I have was not a plan, a spring plan or summer plan, but it's something that I had mentioned and shared on here before, and that is the Guernsey Genser Man Tweed Edition. This is a free pattern on Sandnes Garn. I will include the link below if you're interested. I had finished the back already when I last shared, and now I have picked up both fronts, the front right and left. I've done the garter panels here, or the purl and knit rib panels here, and I just did the very first row of the diagonal crisscross cables. I just started the first one. Actually, I did the first 2 rows. I did the right side and the wrong side. Now I have to do the next chart row. I had started this for my son as a gift for a project that he has been working on this summer, and he's not home yet from that, so I have 2.5 more weeks to finish it. I had initially wanted to gift it to him when we visited him. He's doing a summer stock program in Massachusetts, and it's a very intense program, so he's been enjoying it though, and he's having a lot of fun there. It's just very intense. So we visited him, but I didn't have much of this done at all. I probably had just joined the front the last time I worked. When I was going on the trip, I had just joined the front, I'm pretty sure, and I just was like, so yeah, that's not going to happen either. And that was that. So if I can get it done before the end of summer, I can gift it to him. If not, then I'll just keep working on it, and maybe it'll be a Christmas visit. Either way, he'll get it at some point in his life. I am using the Sandnes Garn tweed yarn, the recycled tweed yarn, which is a recommended yarn for this project. And like I said, it is a free pattern on their website. I will include the link below. And I just love the Guernsey pattern. I still want to make it for myself. I still have a back panel sitting for my younger daughter that's been sitting there for a really long time, but I just have so many projects that I want to knit, you know? I'm sure you understand. I'm sure you understand that feeling of wanting to knit all the things and not having the time to knit all the things. I feel like it's a universal problem for all of us knitters there. But I think that's it for now. I definitely will not be getting through all of my summer knitting plans, and I expressed that in my summer knitting plans video. I went a little overboard. I knew that. I was not very, and I just get overexcited, and I'm sure you can understand that as well. So I'm pretty sure I can get through maybe one more summer knitting plan out of the 5 I have left. I have the Petra Polo, I have the Ivy blouse, I have the striped rib tank, I have the Amelie blouse, and there's one more. Or is that it? That might be it, actually. That might be just 4 more, because I have 2 whips. Oh, the French market bag. Yeah, that's never getting done. That's never getting done. I can't knit with that yarn very well. I just dislike it so much. The Essayer cotton bommelin yarn for the French market bag by Petite Knit. Anyway, that's it for the episode today. If you have made it this far, I appreciate you so much. Thank you for watching my channel, for continuing to support. I would love to know what you're working on as you were watching me talk and ramble about my knitting. I always love to hear what others are working on. If you haven't, please consider liking and subscribing. It would really help my channel and mean so much to me. And I will see you next time. I have a couple more ideas for videos to share soon. So I will be back soon, hopefully. Don't hold me to that. Thank you for watching. Happy knitting. I'll see you next time. Bye.